Welcome. You are listening to audio from the table. If you'd like to learn more about our community or donate to this ministry, please visit thetabletx.com.
Right. Some peace. It is so good to be with you all this New Year's Day. Anyone a little tired? I'm like 7 to 9 o'clock person. I mean, I didn't, not for New Year's Day. I pushed through. You know, it's like, it feels wrong to go to sleep before midnight. But, yeah, so it's always, the next day for me is like, all right, it's a bit much. But it's so good to be with you all. I'm so glad you're here. I didn't actually know if anyone would come, so I'm delighted. Like, look at you showed up. It's wonderful. And also, I want to welcome those joining us online. We love you all a lot. So I'm thinking of who else? It's James is online with us. Gail Bayron often. Who else? Seth Horvath is on there all the time. James is on there all the time. There's a number of folks. Sorry if I'm missing. There's always the danger of listing specific people. Sorry. But I just want y'all to know you are loved too. And we're glad you're with us. So, and also anyone here who's new in our midst, thanks for being with us. It means a lot. It can take a lot of courage to walk through those doors, come into a new space, new community, all that. So tonight, like Kelly mentioned, it's a really special night, and I have no long sermon for you because it is Story Sunday, and it's kind of this practice that we've been engaging for the last few years that there's something so powerful about letting people, giving space for people to just share vulnerably about just their story, and sometimes it's focused on like the last year. Sometimes it's more of like over, decades, which is kind of like tonight is some bigger picture, kind of longer term stories. But either way, it's always wonderful. And honestly, you hear enough from me all year, so I think we could all use a break. So it's really great to hear from some other folks. We have our text tonight is John 15, 26 through 27. This is Christ speaking. He says, "When the advocate comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth who goes out from the Father, he will testify about me. And you also must testify, for you have been with me from the beginning." And the key line there is that invitation for us to actually testify, which is a little bit of a churchy word, I know, but it just means to share the story, to name not only the goodness of God and the beauty of Christ, but even just to share like how Christ has been active in our own lives. And there's just something so compelling and powerful about that. So kind of my hope is that as you listen to these stories, that like you start to see aspects of your own story kind of in and through it, even if the details, of course, will differ. But that there's always like connection points. And so, be just kind of having those ears to hear tonight to see what God might be speaking to you in and through these folks. So without further ado, our first person tonight, our first story is going to be Jeff Piersman. Y'all give him a hand. Come on up, friend. Let's see, are we centered?
Test.
Close enough? Okay. You got it. Test.
I'm not good at this, so now we got that.
Hey, you're among friends, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. See, look at them. They look so
Absolutely.
nice. So, Jeff, if y'all don't know Jeff, he's great. What I really appreciate, this will come out more in his story, is that, for where Jeff is now, it has been so hard fought. Like, not much came easy, and so just to see like the husband he is, the follower of Christ he is, like it's really wonderful. So, Jeff, how about you start? Just like kind of catch us up for those who maybe don't know you. Share a little bit just about who you are, now, and then take us back to back to like family stuff and how were you raised and
Back to the day.
yeah, way back in the day.
Thank you. So yes, I was born in the Netherlands, in Holland, originally, and my mom was there, of course, and all that. But my mom divorced and then married a traveling hippie as he came through in the 70s. That was my stepdad to be, and then he wanted to go back home, so he says, "Well, why don't y'all come with me?" So we all piled in and flew to America, and here we are. You wouldn't know it unless I told you. You know.
How old were you?
I was like
when
5.
Okay, young.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah, I'm still a Dutch citizen, so you would never know. Absolutely. So we came here to the States. Believe it or not, they bought a little one of them little Volkswagen campers with the pop-up tops, and we traveled for about a year, everywhere. Had flowers on the side, all that stuff, the hippie thing, whatever. And we settled in Dallas to go to Christ for the Nations Bible Institute. They found the Lord, or the Lord found them, and that's how we ended up here in Dallas. It was supposed to be for 2 years. I'm still here. Yeah. I think I was like 8 to 10, 8 at that point, and I went to CFNI, and I went to Trinity School, Trinity, back when they were trailers for a couple of years, and a couple other, private schools. So I was brought up from that point with God, with Christ, and I always had the foundation there. I knew what it was, and I knew right from wrong for sure. I just didn't care at some point, I think. Yeah.
So, maybe it's that just didn't care is a good transition. So eventually, your life, it kind of took like a darker turn, like a more difficult, challenging turn. Share some of that background and how you got there.
Yep. Let me jump back real quick. Yeah. I forgot to say that when we moved from there, we did eventually settle in Garland, and my mom and dad had 4 more kids besides me and my sister. So there were 6 of us, and they all laid a pretty high quota to meet. My brother's Josh Havens from the Afters, and my sister's got a doctorate, and they all got all this stuff. So yeah, it's like. And then there's me, So, yeah, I was the black sheep, you could say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so kind of, what happened? Or where did things start to...
So as a teenager, I was pretty much lost. I think all the traveling, I was never able to lay down roots anywhere, and I was just looking for an escape or acceptance or, anything that could, just moving around. And I was doing drugs. By the time I was 17, 18 years old, I was doing hard drugs. And, people always say, oh, you did it because you had issues when you were younger or something to do with your childhood. Well, I don't believe any of that. I did it because I liked it. Because, I mean, that's the truth.
It made you feel better?
Yeah, it made me feel better. I never bought into all that stuff. So... and then, so I was like 17, 18, and I was still using. I was, you start off with drinking and smoking, and then you go from there to, other stuff. And at some point, I found meth, and I really got stuck there for a very, very long time, and or it found me, whatever. And I did meth for the next 10 years at least on a monthly basis, and I managed to get a job and get a house and get married and get divorced and have a kid, and then I had one foot in the drug world and one foot out in the regular world, but I was never able to escape it. And at one point I managed to get I was on the road, and I bought a new truck, a semi-truck, and I traveled, cross country for 10 years, moving furniture, and I would pretty much use every time I came back into town. So my escape was to get out of town, So get out of town. Then I was okay, as long as but then I come back in. And I said, I'm never gonna do that again. 2 months later, here I am, And I'm sure some of y'all know the routine, but
That was kind of the 10 years. Was that sort of back and forth? Or I guess was it gradually? Because you started when you were
10
17.
years
so.
was actually not the worst part. That was the part leading up to the worst part.
Yeah.
It was, I was still working and stuff, but I was definitely an addict. And you always try to justify yourself, whereas you look at other people that you know and you say, wow, I'm not as bad as that guy, so I'm okay. Until one day when you become that guy, and then everybody looks at you and they say, "Oh, I'm not as bad as Jeff," you become the guy that you said you weren't. But I think I was closer to 30, and around 30, I ended up getting a DWI in Garland. I was in my vet, and I made a U-turn in the middle of the night, and that was it. And I'd been up for days, and I'd been, always living on the edge, and that was the beginning of the end for me. It was almost like God's grace had fallen away, and he was trying to tell me something. And
was this kind of like your lowest moment?
No, not yet.
Okay, no, you're just on the way.
We're getting there.
On the way down. Okay.
Yeah, so I got the DWI. I ended up not working no more after that. The next 5 years was really rough. I was an addict. I was high for 5 years, basically, to be honest. I'll just put it out there. There was maybe 4 or 5 days in there total that I wasn't. And that was it. I mean, I was just stuck. And, it took the police to get me to stop,
Yeah. So, what was the kind of moment, or was it a moment, or was it a little season where it was like, okay, not necessarily the turning point, but at least a moment of like, wow, like, how did I get here? And in that moment, like, I don't know, what was that like? Or did you feel a sense of like distance from God, or was that like you started to come closer to God, or how did you experience it?
Yeah. They say that when you go to jail, everybody goes to God all of a sudden, because that's all you got left, right? But that was my low point when I was sitting in jail, and I was looking out the window, and I was praying to God, Lord, help me. I'll change again, and I said, I'll make a difference. I'll do better. Send me a woman that doesn't like to party all the time, because that's all I ever found, And well, he did answer me, so that's good. But I was in there. Let me go back to this. I was in jail, and I was praying to God to do something. And it's funny how the Lord works, because I seen a guy in there, and he went into rehab, to a Christian rehab. By now God wasn't, way in the back, and I hadn't gone to church in, a long, long time, many years. But, and he went to a Christian rehab, and he went to court, and he got out, and a day later they picked him up, and he was gone to the ranch out in Maybank, Texas, in the middle of nowhere, in a great place. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I'm ready to get out of here too. I've been in there 2 months. I was like, this sucks. And so I called my mom. Mom, the Lord led me to go to a Christian rehab. Really, it was just me manipulating the system still, right? And I was just wanted out. And because the other rehab, which was court mandated, you had to wait for 6 months before you got to the 6 months.
So then you'd be in jail.
You'd be in
longer,
jail for, and it was jail, pretty much. The rehab was also jail, pretty much. So anyway, the Lord tricked me. He said, watch this. So I made it work, and sure enough, I went to court, and I was 2 hours back, and they picked me up, and I'm on my way to Maybank to a Christian rehab, and I was going for 6 months. But yeah, I did definitely manipulate my way to get there. I thought it was, the quickest way out.
Yeah. So was this kind of like a turning point kind of for you in your life? Or was it something
I thought
else?
it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't. On my first visit back, I ended up bringing back some drugs, and that was, I still wanted to be the man, and I wasn't. And I got caught and everything, that's what happens in there. And then, amazingly enough, Isaiah Robertson, he used to be a running back for the Rams. He's the owner back then, bless his heart, he passed away. But he says, Jeff, I'm going to I forgive you, and let's move on. He didn't.
This was after he
didn't kick me out.
Kind of. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't kick me out. He says, I still love you. We're going to work it out, So I'm still there. So, and then that to me was really like the turning point. The next day I went to Pastor Bob and talked to him and told him everything in my life. And we prayed and cried and we were there for hours. And I just, and I walked out of the building that day a new man. That's the day that I point to. And I said, that made the difference for me right there, because I've never looked back since then.
Yeah, just for context, kind of what year or like roughly when was that?
That was a good 16, 17 years ago.
Okay.
Probably, somewhere 16 to 18 years ago, somewhere around there, yeah.
Wow. So how about kind of like catch us up now? So 16 years later, what's the journey been like? What does your faith in Christ mean now? How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. I definitely believe that God still loves us. He still loves me and my family. And I like to say, I always say that I am living proof that no matter how deep you are in the trenches, that you can get out and still do great things. You don't have to be there. You don't have to commit that that's who you are for life, because that's what you've been into for so long. You can do way better. I got some of my son's friends here, and they're looking at me like, what in the world? They didn't have a clue, some of them, but this is my past, so it is what it is. I was laid down a foundation for Christ by my parents, and I did escape from it. I did get away from it, and but it was always there. That when I did get to jail, that's what I was doing. I was praying. And I came back. So I hope that now at least I have laid the foundation for my kids so that they can, if they stray, they can always come back.
Wow, it's beautiful, beautiful. Jeff, we're proud of you, and we're glad that you're following Christ and in a better place.
Absolutely.
Better season.
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Y'all give him a hand. Next is my good friend Miriam. Come on up, y'all give her a hand. All right, so Miriam, you've been here maybe a year or so, I think?
Not even. I think we started like April-ish, around Easter. Yeah. Going on a year. Yeah.
One thing I really appreciate about Miriam is she has, I don't know if all of you gotten a chance to interact with her, but she just has kind of a certain joy or energy that when you're around her, like it just, I don't know, you just feel better. It's like that smile and everything. It's just like, yeah.
I'm dying on the inside right now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'm so nervous. No, you're wonderful.
Thank you.
So give us a little bit of background, a little bit just like Jeff, kind of who you are, now, like where you're living, where, and then take us back to like family upbringing and some of that journey.
Yeah, definitely. I could talk for days on this, so I'll try to condense it. I am Miriam. I'm 29. I live up in Anna, Texas with my BFF right there. Sorry. Used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 4 years, recently left that profession, and now I'm working in cybersecurity. Very similar. Not at all. So I love it. That's where I am right now. So going back into my family history, kind of like what was that earlier? You wouldn't know by looking at me, but I am half Middle Eastern. I take after my mom. My dad is Palestinian. And so my dad grew up in Jordan and moved to America when he was in college and met my mom and had 7 of us. And so my dad is Muslim and had my mom convert to Islam so that they could get married. And so I was actually raised Muslim. Again, 7 children. There were 6 girls and 1 boy, so I kind of feel bad for my brother. He's a sweet boy, though. But we lived in Houston growing up and then moved down to Corpus Christi, Texas. And so, yeah, lived my life. We were not many Muslim families there. So there was a lot of like discrimination, just geared towards us. Because I did cover my hair. I did wear long sleeve and all that. Now I'm up here with like tattoos and everything. So I did do all that, practice the religion. And yeah, it was pretty rough. Called names like terrorist all the time and just different things. And so my parents separated and then divorced when I was 14. And the reason was because my mom left the religion. So I was the only one of the 7 kids that went and lived with my dad. And so we kind of hopped around, went to an apartment, went to houses, and my dad remarried 6 months after he divorced from my mom. And I got 2 stepsisters out of that who were my age, and that was great. And so went to college, met my best friend Sarah, and that's going to probably transition into your next question. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so obviously now you're here in a Christian church.
Yeah.
So how did some of that kind of religious transition, like what did that look like? How did that happen?
Yeah, definitely. So I was very proud of my religion. And I think I was proud of it because I tried to be that person that my dad wanted me to be. Stand firm in your faith. You're going to be the one that turned out right out of all the kids. And so I wanted to make him proud. And so I had no intention of seeking out another religion. Actually, on the flip side, Sarah was, sharing Christianity with me. We met in college. We're in the same sorority. And I was trying to convert her to Islam. And so I thought I was doing a great job. And look where we are today. So I would bring my Quran. She would bring the Bible. And honestly, if you don't know, they're very similar. The difference really happens at what happened to Jesus and onward. But everything, I believed in Jesus growing up. And so we bonded over that. And that process took 3 years. 3 years of me going to church with her. I served in a church, still covered. They let me come in, much like this church. We're great about accepting anyone and everyone. Served in the church, and throughout those 3 years, there was a lot of signs, I feel like, from God, and just things pointing me towards the direction of Christianity. And there was a big reason as to why I converted. I'm just going to keep going. You stop me if you want me to stop. I'm gay, and I've known since I was very young. And I hear the argument all the time, oh, there's no way you could know that young. But my thing is at 5 years old, kids have crushes. And I'm like, mine were on girls. And I knew my entire life, but I was always told, no, it's a sin. Abomination, it's not okay. And so a lot of the reason why I was so okay with leaving my faith was because that faith was not taking the gay away. And I was so desperate. Countless nights crying, what is wrong with me? This is awful. I'm going to hell, blah, blah, blah. And I saw Sarah's life change in Christianity, how we were in a sorority. We partied. We did that. And then she was like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm like, wow, your God changed you. Maybe he could change me. And so I was desperate. I knew I would lose my family, but it was honestly I couldn't handle it anymore. And so I converted to Christianity when I was 20, and I did. I lost part of my family. I haven't talked to my dad in 10 years almost, or he hasn't talked to me, that whole side of my family. And yeah, I was just still desperate to pray it away. You hear that term, pray the gay away. And it didn't work. I tried. We went on mission trips. We've been to multiple countries. I served in ministry. I devoted my life to trying to pray this away. But honestly, nobody knew. It was all in secret because I didn't come out until last year, and I'm 29 now. So that was really, really lonely, a very, very lonely experience. That was harder to deal with, honestly, than losing my family. So that's kind of where I am right now. I know you have some follow-up questions that I forgot about, so ask them and
you're
it'll
good.
come to me.
Well, one thing I'm curious about is, do you, like, thinking of these two kind of major transition moments, kind of based on what you just named, are you saying that you think probably that transition of coming out and accepting that part of yourself, like that has been a more challenging transition? Like, do you think that's been the more, is that kind of what I understood you saying?
It has been, because for me, like, becoming a Christian was a choice for me. Being gay is not a choice for me. And it was easy for me to be like, okay, I'm making this choice and I'm leaving my faith and going to this one, but I have to accept being gay, and I'm not making this choice. Whether I want it or not, it's here. And so that's why it's been harder for me.
Do you think some of that is kind of identity? Like, the first is sort of, I don't know, this thing that I can participate in or not, or it's like a little bit more external somehow, even though, of course, our relationship with God is very personal, but, you know, sort of like, I'm going to participate in this religious tradition, or, okay, no, now I'm going to do this one. Whereas, like you said, sexual orientation, that just, it just gets so intertwined deeply with a sense of kind of who we are. And so that ended up being, there was this almost like a journey to accept yourself.
Yep.
Is that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but something like that?
Absolutely. And it was a lot because I was told all the time that it was wrong. And I honestly thought something was wrong with me because I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't. I dated one person, and it was a guy, and I was so desperate. And he's great. He's one of my best friends today. But I was willing to be miserable and to make everyone else happy. And honestly, like, I realized that I didn't give enough credit to those around me, because in my head I built up these scenarios like, oh, they're going to ostracize me again. I'm going to lose people again. I don't want this to happen again. So I'm just going to live with it, and I'll make everyone else happy.
Yeah. What would you say to someone, like, maybe it's not even sexual orientation, but I think this is, in a way, just like Jeff's journey is so applicable for anyone struggling with, like, addiction or just parts of their life that feels kind of out of control. And I think for you, it's like identity things, like parts of myself that I'm struggling to accept, you know, these things that I just want to change. I got to change that. And but there's certain parts of us that we, you know, it's like our personality or so, like, it's not changing. What would you say to them, like, whether it's a word of encouragement or perspective or, you know, anything along those lines, of if someone is struggling with that same kind of identity type stuff?
Yeah, there's a few words of encouragement that I've heard. So the first is, there are things that we find hard to accept within ourselves. I mean, everyone struggles with that. What helped me was finding a community or even close friends that I knew I could trust. And one other thing was I was so scared to tell people around me that I knew, that I reached out to, and I'm not recommending this for everyone, it worked for me. I reached out to people who experienced the same thing as me, who were gay women who came out, that I didn't know, people that I met on social media and stuff. And they really encouraged me, because I was reaching out to people who knew nothing about me. They had no prior judgment. I would encourage y'all to, whoever is struggling with whatever, really focus in and hone on those people and give them credit. They're in your life. They love you. They're going to love you no matter what. And if not, then they're not meant to be in your life. And I've experienced that time and time again. Thankfully, coming out was an easier transition when it came to the people around me. And I know not everyone has that experience. But on the flip side, if there is anyone who knows somebody who's struggling with something, I want to tell those people, like, we're not here to try to change your conviction. We kind of just wish that we were not judged for our own. And that's the biggest thing for us. And I would just encourage you to love on these people. Again, gay, not gay, whatever they're struggling with, love on them. Because if they're coming to you and they trust in you, that's a big step. So I would encourage them with that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Miriam, your story is, it's pretty remarkable.
Thank you.
Remarkable, and I appreciate your courage in sharing with all of us. So
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah,
Y'all give
thank
her
you.
a hand.